The air above the city smelled of ash for weeks. Not the light passing ash of a cooking fire, something heavier, something that had consumed marble and timber and the oil of 1,000 lamps. The kind of smell that settles into cloth and into stone and does not leave easily. In the summer of 480 BC, the largest army the ancient world had assembled to that point crossed into Greece and moved south. The city they reached, the city they burned, methodically and completely, had stood for centuries. Its streets, its temples, its market squares were not simply damaged, they were erased. What remained when the army finally withdrew was rubble and silence and ground scorched black beneath an open sky. What happened next is one of the most extraordinary acts of rebuilding in recorded history. The Persian forces did not reach Athens in a single march. They came in stages, moving through mountain passes, crossing rivers, pressing south through the heart of Greece. Word traveled ahead of them. Village by village, city by city, people understood what was approaching. Historians believe the population of Athens evacuated in the weeks before the army arrived. Records from this period describe thousands of people moving to coastal towns and neighboring islands, families carrying what they could carry, leaving behind everything that could not be moved. Stone walls could be rebuilt. The people could not be replaced. The army arrived to a city that was mostly empty. What they left behind was rubble. Evidence from this period suggests the destruction was thorough. Temples broken apart, walls toppled, the upper city stripped of anything that would burn. Archaeologists working the site centuries later found layers of charred material preserved beneath the surface. The physical record of what was lost still exists underground, sealed in the earth beneath modern Athens. The fires burned for days. The smoke, historical accounts suggest, could be seen from the sea. By 479 BC, the Persian forces had finally retreated, driven back in a series of battles on land and water, and the people of Athens returned to what remained of their city. Evidence suggests they came back to blackened foundations and the outline of streets. The temples on the high rock above the city were gone. The marketplace was ash and scattered stone. The houses of the wealthy and the workshops of the craftsmen stood as foundations and little else. The great civic buildings that had housed the young democracy were damaged or entirely destroyed. Historians believe the months that followed were defined by confusion and ordinary grief. People moved through ruins looking for objects that had survived. Families rebuilt temporary structures from salvaged timber and whatever stone could be cleared. Courts and councils met in the open air. The administrative machinery of the city, still one of the most innovative systems of government in the ancient world, continued to function, but in the middle of wreckage. The air still carried the smell of old fires long after the army had gone. The upper city, the high, flat rock that had always held the most sacred ground in Athens, stood empty against the sky. What had been there was gone. Broken columns and scattered marble were all that remained. There was no plan yet. There was only survival and the question of what came next. Rebuilding a city from nothing is not a single decision. It is hundreds of decisions made over months and years, most of them small, most of them difficult. What the evidence from this period makes clear is that the leadership of Athens made a choice that went well beyond restoration. Rather than rebuilding what had existed before, they chose to build something greater. Historical records indicate that a major construction program was organized from around 461 BC across several decades, the most ambitious building project attempted in the ancient Greek world to that point. The vision was not modest, it was a statement. The city that had been burned would become, stone by stone, the most impressive city in the Mediterranean. Thousands of workers were involved: stonecutters, sculptors, carpenters, engineers, and administrators. Evidence suggests craftsmen traveled from across the Greek world and beyond to contribute to the effort. The harbor became active with ships carrying marble from mountain quarries northeast of the city. That marble, white, fine-grained, touched with iron that aged slowly to a warm gold in sunlight, became the material of the new Athens. The work began in the lower city and moved upward, and what moved upward would become something no one had built before. The high rock at the center of Athens had always held sacred ground. What was constructed on it in the decades following the destruction became something the ancient world had no real precedent for. The Great Temple at its peak was built from a single mountain's worth of marble. Historians believe construction began in 447 BC and continued for more than a decade. The workers used no mortar. The stones were cut to fit together with such precision that the joints are nearly invisible even today. The structure contained no perfectly straight lines. The columns lean slightly inward. The floor curves gently upward at its center. Evidence suggests these adjustments were made deliberately, to correct for optical illusions, to make the building appear geometrically perfect to a human eye standing at ground level. Inside, historical accounts describe a statue of extraordinary scale, constructed of gold and ivory over a wooden frame, depicting the city's patron goddess. Contemporary writers described visitors approaching it and stopping without speaking. Around the main temple, other structures rose: a grand gateway, a smaller temple positioned to one side, auxiliary halls, steps carved into the rock, enclosure walls. The entire hilltop became a unified architectural statement, not a monument to one ruler or one battle, but to the city itself. From the harbor miles away, historical accounts suggest, sailors arriving from sea could see the high temple catching the afternoon light long before the city itself came into view. The high rock was the monument. The lower city was where Athens actually lived. Evidence from this period describes a dense and layered urban environment. The central marketplace, a broad open space anchored by civic buildings and bordered by colonnaded halls, was where commerce, government, and intellectual life mixed freely. Potters and metal workers kept workshops along its edges. Farmers brought produce in from the surrounding countryside each morning. Merchants arrived from the port with goods from across the Mediterranean world. The sounds were constant: the noise of trade, the clanging of metal from open workshop doors, the particular low roar of a large crowd moving through a confined space. Historians believe the smells of the marketplace shifted through the day. Fresh bread and olive oil in the morning, dust and animal dung by midday, smoke from fires and lamps as the afternoon cooled. Courts operated in the open air. Citizens gathered to debate and vote on matters of city law. Philosophers drew students into the colonnaded walkways and argued about justice, about the structure of the cosmos, about what a city owed its citizens and what citizens owed each other. Records indicate that these conversations were not the activity of an isolated intellectual class. They were civic life. The same square where merchants sold wine in the morning hosted public debates by afternoon, debates that would shape the intellectual tradition of the Western world for the next 2,000 years. The city that had been burned became, within a single generation, the center of ancient Mediterranean civilization, until war returned again in 404 BC and the Golden Age came to a close. The buildings that rose from the burned ground of Athens were not simply reconstruction. They were an argument. They argued that destruction is not the final word, that a people who return to ash and cold stone can, if they choose to, build something that outlasts the fire. The ideas that moved through the marketplace below that high temple passed into every culture that followed. They passed through later empires, through medieval scholars copying old manuscripts, through the architects and lawmakers who designed the capitals of modern nations. The proportion and arrangement of columns that rose on that high rock became a template for courthouses, parliament buildings, and museums across the world. The arguments about citizenship and law that were made in the marketplace below became the foundation of legal systems that are still in use today. Most of the city the ancient Athenians built is gone. Centuries of conquest, fire, and time have reduced much of it to foundations and scattered stone. But the great temple still stands, incomplete, stripped of most of its sculpture, incomparably beautiful against an Aegean sky. The fire took everything. The people came back and built something the fire could not touch. The people who returned to that burned city had none of what we take for granted today. No digital tools for the engineers laying out those foundations. No supply chains running on schedule. No written safety codes for the workers cutting marble on an exposed rock in summer heat. No guarantee that what they built would survive a generation, let alone 2,500 years. They had the city they were standing in, which was mostly nothing, and the decision to make it something. What they did have, the historical record suggests, was a particular understanding that a city is not its buildings. A city is the refusal of its people to accept the ash as the ending. They rebuilt the buildings. The ideas rebuilt themselves. Every scene in this video was created using modern AI technology, rebuilt from archaeological records, ancient historical accounts, and the physical evidence that still exists beneath and above the ground of modern Athens. These are not real footage, but the history is real, and this is what it might have looked like. I am History AI Rebuilds. If this brought that world to life for you, subscribe and I will keep rebuilding it.